This week's podcast, I'm super excited. I have my good friend, Dr. Julie Gunther. She is a dual board certified family physician who loves being a doctor. She founded SparkMD in 2013 to take back her relationship with her patients and to empower herself to be the doctor she set out to be. In 2016, Dr. Julie was diagnosed with breast cancer. Her diagnosis at the age of 40 led her to reframe her personal goals and her goals for SparkMD. She decided to build a team that supported her mission and that would allow her to extend more care to more people and to spend the time sharing SparkMD's mission with other doctors and medical organizations throughout the country. Dr. Julie has worked to build a robust, compassionate, diligent, and capable team of 2 nurses, a nurse practitioner, a physician's assistant, and an esthetician. The SparkMD team provides urgent care services, wellness services, and aesthetic services focusing across the board on mental and physical well-being. Dr. Julie supervises all of these services and is generally on site or behind the scenes for every patient interaction provided. And the mission of everyone there at SparkMD is to restore the integrity of healthcare through dignified, transparent care that is given the time and space it's needed to be done right. And she truly does give you the time to do it right. Dr. Julie is a graduate of Boise High School, Harvard University, and the University of Washington School of Medicine. And she has spoken all over the place. She's provided content or has been featured in Forbes, NPR, Bloomberg News, Medical Economics, Physician Practice, Reason TV, Kevin MD, the Idaho Statesman, Idaho Business Review, on and on and on, and many other forums. And she's just well respected in her industry. And she enjoys motivational speaking, telling authentic stories, and empowering physicians and individuals to think differently about how we care for ourselves and for each other. And she can, of course, be reached at drg@sparkmd.com, and more with Julie in a moment. But first, I have to tell you about the Raise app. Save every day at your favorite spots with Raise, RAISE. And you can, of course, use my link to get $5 off your first card, getaraise.com. But go to peppershock.com/offers to use my special link to get your $5 off for free. I've seriously saved some money doing this. So you buy gift cards at a discount and then you use those gift cards all over. I mean, there's every brand name out there practically that you can find on there. And it's great because then you can use your Raise to, purchase other things, or you can actually get cash back right into your bank account. So utilizing Raise is really a pretty cool tool. So go to peppershock.com/offers to get a raise, to get your offer. Anyway, all right. And now it's time for our marketing essentials moment with me, Ray Allen. Okay. So last time we talked about focusing on the customers that you already have. This time I want to talk about going double down on digital. Everybody's in the digital space. Triple down on digital. I don't know. The point is, with the lockdowns and the travel restrictions of the pandemic, it's really no surprise that we're shifting everything from a click and mortar to sort of a brick and mortar, if you will. So if you don't have an online shopping cart and you don't have a way for people to buy online and you don't have a way for people to communicate with you on your website, let us know. I think that's something that we can do, but you've got to think about what kind of e-commerce trends and channels you can use to increase your online presence. And there's lots of marketing tools out there that you can use if you're kind of a DIYer and you need to do it yourself. But also if you need help, let us know. But you really, really need to think about how you can double down on digital and move to the online space and automate. And I always say, automate what you hate, measure what you treasure, and dump what you don't. Automate what you hate, measure what you treasure, and dump what you don't. Okay, without further ado, let's get into talking with Dr. Gunther.
Welcome to Peppershock Media's Marketing Expedition podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in marketing and advertising. Now here's your host, Ray Allen.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition podcast. I'm your host, Ray Allen, President and CEO of Peppershock Media and the founder of the Marketing Expedition community. Today, I have a special guest with me. I mean, all my guests are special, but I have an extra special guest today, Dr. Julie Gunther. Julie, say hi and tell us who you are, what you do, and how we know each other. How about that?
That sounds great. Hello, everybody. Hello, Ray. Thanks so much for having me on today. Absolutely. I am Dr. Julie Gunther. I was raised in Boise, Idaho. I'm a family medicine physician, so I'm an MD, board certified doctor. I own my own cash-based medical practice called SparkMD. I'm also an entrepreneur and a teacher and a mom and a friend. And in the process of personal growth, I got to meet the lovely Miss Ray, along with a number of other small business owners. It's been interesting for me to learn that many of the small business challenges, even of a micro medical clinic, are small business challenges that lots of businesses face. So I've learned a lot from Ray and continue to learn a lot from you. Yeah. And so we got to meet when we were in a business development class, I guess, or a business mentoring group together, a mastermind together. Yeah, that's a better word. Yeah. So yeah,
that's been fun. I remember the day we met. And we were going around the room and saying everything of who we were and what we were doing. And I was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. I'm in the room with a doctor. This is a business thing. What's going on here? It's cool, though. We said it before that if you are surrounding yourself with other people who are like-minded, even if it's not the same business, right, you can learn from each other. So that's been quite the journey for us, right?
Right. Well, I think this is a little bit unique to physicians, but not entirely. As many people know, I joked that like when you see a doctor out in the wild, people often are pretty surprised, right? And that applies to business or softball games or whatever. And on the other side of that, being a doctor who doesn't go out in the wild, being a doctor who gets up, goes to the hospital, works in the hospital or in the medical clinic, and then goes home, you really, in my opinion, don't get to continue to just explore a lot of different components of your personality. So medical training is so intensive that we kind of do go in this tunnel and then we come out. And if we work as an employee, I think it limits some opportunities for self-discovery. So one of my greatest joys in starting my own medical clinic, in addition to being able to just authentically be a doctor the way I want to be, has actually been stepping into entrepreneurship and small business space and all the challenges and creativity that comes with it. I joke, but it's not really a joke. It's actually a huge business opportunity for somebody. Like I do life and death work and have very serious conversations. I tell people they have cancer, and that's not my biggest challenge. My biggest challenge used to be, well, and still sometimes is my phones. It's basic business operations that should be way easy to solve. So what I've enjoyed in a way, I've learned a ton from people who own flooring companies, real estate agents, from you. So what I have unexpectedly really loved is in small business is all the challenges and learning that come from it that don't necessarily have to do specifically with my industry.
Let's talk about your business and what makes you different and unique and maybe the model that you've started and why. Why did you start SparkMD?
Right. So as a businesswoman now, I would say I started SparkMD to solve a problem. If you'd asked me 7 years ago when I founded SparkMD, I solved it because I was acutely aware that other than my incredible skill set as a doctor, I really didn't have another employable skill set. So, I joke, but after I finished medical school, I took a year off and one of the local schools would not hire me. They had an opening as a school nurse and I was not qualified to be a school nurse. Even though I'm like, but I'm a doctor. So I was at a real cross point or crossroads in my own life about what do I want and what do I want to be. And honestly, at the time, that decision was only partially informed in the sense that I still had a pretty restricted view of what I was or could be, which was a family physician. And so I really, the motivation for starting Spark was how can I doctor the way I want to? And I had a number of, honestly, very sad cases with patients where I just started to see the healthcare system fail them over and over again in terms of honoring their dignity or their uniqueness. And I have a really, really strong sense of social responsibility.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. And I feel really strongly, almost to the level of pathology, that if you're physically present when something is occurring, whether you do or don't do anything, you are a part of that. So I just really got to a personal point where I couldn't be comfortable with my name on the door where I was working when the outcome of many patient care moments was not reflective of what I wanted. So
this is before SparkMD.
Yeah, this is before Spark. So the impetus of it really was I can't, within the employment model that I was in, I couldn't be the doctor the way I envisioned being a doctor. So the question naturally was, is there a way to just be a doctor? And I stumbled upon two physicians out of Wichita, Kansas, who own a business called Atlas MD. And it was just like sort of what you hear, like that folklorish lightning epiphany. And that was in September 2013. Yeah. And it just total clarity that if you really untether doctoring from a lot of the business burdens, particularly billing insurance, it fundamentally changes how you can deliver care. So,
because you're not spending all that time trying to code and do all the insurance, requirements that you have to do.
Right.
You're truly doing what you feel is right, not what the insurance company tells you have to do, right?
Right. And, we talk about that socially, but my clinical decision-making was never driven by insurance guidelines, but I think it's 10 times worse than it was 7 years ago. I know it is. So if you imagine any job you do, and one analogy I've used is a hairstylist, but if you imagine, for the people who are listening, plumber, teacher, which I think teachers have some of these burdens. If you take any job or anything you love, gardening, if you imagine you went out for 2 hours and you gardened, and you enjoyed it and you loved it, and some things worked and some things didn't, and there's that plant that didn't quite make it, and I wish I would have made this decision, right? That's all the work of gardening. If you then translate that and say, now you need to go in, sit down and type up exactly what you did. I mean, to the point of when we freeze little skin cancers on someone, theoretically, if you're going to bill insurance, you need to say, on the anterior left forehead, there was a 1 millimeter by 3 millimeter scaly plaque of this discoloration, and I froze it on that, and list every single one. So the documentation of the work actually became more of what the work is. And that's what's happened in healthcare. Documenting what you did has garnered more attention than actually the work that needs to happen. Right. And the cool thing about healthcare is actually there's more than enough work to do just taking care of humans. So if you've been hospitalized lately, you see it right away. The nurse walks in, and in addition to asking your name and birthday, 8-10 times, and you haven't switched rooms, often you'll see people come in and the first thing they do is they're bar scanning everything, and what they're doing is documenting every single thing that's occurring so that they can make sure charges are captured. So my epiphany was just really the business of healthcare was really transitioning to being a charge capture business, and that my role was to document everything to the point so that the system could make sure they got maximum reimbursement. And it creates a whole bunch of perverse incentives in the sense that the only real way you make more money in healthcare, if you're a physician or if you're a system that employs physicians, is you need to capture more charges, which means I need to code more stuff, which means, and then you need to see more people. And so I thought something was wrong with me. And then when I realized I was afforded about 12 minutes per patient visit. And I was doing things like a 13-year-old who said she was having dark thoughts and cutting, and a woman who was struggling with infertility, and a 25-year-old with a cardiac deficit on a medication that meant she could never be on hormones.
But you only get 12 minutes.
Yeah, and so I was dealing with very complex, and even heartburn or a wart. A 4-year-old with a wart on their foot. Yeah, I can tackle that kid, freeze it, and we can move on with life. Or I can sit down, talk to her, ask her about a stuffed animal, and then build trust. And then, so these things don't have to be traumatic. So what I enjoy, the work I do is not 12-minute work. Right. And I would argue none of us, physicians have a lot of training. And so if you imagine finishing school at 35 and doing your heart work with 35 years of education, or minus when I was age 1 to 6 or whatever, can you do that in 12 minutes? So my epiphany was really it's not me. Right. The system in which the construct in which I'm attempting to deliver is not designed to deliver this thing I envision delivering. So that was a very big growth opportunity for me. So in a long-winded way, I opened SparkMD, which is a direct primary care practice. There's about 2,000 direct primary care clinics in the country now. They're mostly independent physicians who went out on our own. And by not billing insurance, it's not just about not billing insurance. It means I answer to you, not to your insurance, which also means I don't have to document. Right. If I want to freeze some skin cancers, I freeze some skin cancers. And I don't then spend 4 hours every night, which is the average, after a physician leaves work, documenting the work I did that day. So
and you can maybe spend more than 12 minutes with me.
Yeah. Actually right before this, I saw a follow-up on a older gentleman who was hospitalized. Actually, interestingly, he wasn't feeling good. I saw him the Tuesday before Christmas. My NP saw him the next day. My PA saw him the first day right after Christmas. And then we ended up sending him to the hospital. and he was just discharged, but I was in the room with himself and his wife and his daughter, who because of COVID have not been involved in his care.
Right.
And they recorded the visit because we allow people to do that because we want them to remember what's talked about. And I think it was hour and 20-minute visit.
Wow.
And we did, what are your end of life wishes? Let's make sure we get those re-recorded. So it's on charge it's on record in the hospital. Let's go through all your meds. Visits have a natural end. I mean, we get to a point where they're just naturally done. We're done with that work. And I love the organic nature of the work I do now, because if it's 10 minutes, great. If it's an hour and 10 minutes, great. And I have that flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the model that you have, and explain a little bit more just to put it into context. You don't take insurance, but you do a monthly subscription.
Right.
And you charge $79 a month.
So adults are $79 a month and kids are $10 a month with an adult. We have an enrollment fee. So direct primary care as a business model is like a gym membership.
Right.
Or it's like old timey medical care. I'm your doctor, you're my patient.
Right.
And you pay me and I take care of you. I joke, there's like a head tilt. People struggle with how simple that whole thing is.
Because they're usually paying insurance that's, $300 a month.
Right.
But if I pay you $79 a month.
So we're $79 a month. We did a survey of our patient customers last year in the fall, like October, November. And I just said, throw out an estimate. How much money do you think this model of care saved you per year? And the average answer was $2,000. Yeah. That's because we sell wholesale medications. So we can dispense medications like a pharmacy. We're not a pharmacy, but like a pharmacy, we have 330 generics. And then we negotiate prices on labs and imaging as well that are wholesale. So even our insured patients generally save money if they need an MRI. Diabetes drugs, there's five main pills that someone with, say, diabetes and high blood pressure might be on. We had a patient, he was paying $825 a month for those medicines. It was $225 a month. Same medicines, just dispensed at wholesale prices. So we try to simplify healthcare. We try to personalize healthcare. We try to answer our phone when it rings and call back the same day. And then the other weird thing, and it's a little thing, we sort of like the bar from Cheers, like where everybody knows your name.
Yeah, everybody knows your name.
It's a simplified model. It's a scaled down model. And I just think it works better.
It's very personable too, right? Yeah. You're not just a number. You're not just a chart, a colored chart that you're trying to document every little thing. Right. It's more about the person holistically of who you are. And you walk through the door and everyone knows who you are. And I think that's great. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you. Yeah. It's definitely, and SparkMD is I'm glad for the name and the brand I chose, because it really has been, to not be super cheesy, it has been a spark in my career. Right. And it's created a lot of opportunity for conversation and role modeled a really different way to think about how we deliver healthcare. And makes me kind of hopeful for people who might want to be doctors. But I also see, unfortunately, that this model creates an intervention in times of health crisis for people, because more and more people are becoming aware that maybe their health needs aren't met with the constraints of the employed or the system model, the shorter visits.
Because then it's a $50 copay if you want to go see a doctor about something. And in this case, you've pretty much taken care of it with the monthly, but it's not on top of that. But you do still recommend like catastrophic insurance. It's not like you're saying don't get insurance altogether, right?
Right. The way I encourage people to think about it is it's kind of like people use the analogy of like a car, right? You have insurance for collisions, but the routine oil changes, the filling the tires with air, the gas, all the things that keep the car going on the road that are expected, you don't put those things under your insurance. So I think healthcare would be improved. And what we do is we create a segmentation. We create a division in the healthcare model. The idea that insurance can be used for catastrophes, which are hopefully rare and they're unplanned and they're going to happen if they're going to happen, in the sense that trauma, breaking your leg when you're skiing or things like that. Once those things happen, you'd be advised to have health insurance. But otherwise, if we can keep you out of the ER, keep you out of the specialist's office, by being available and by knowing your health history and by being a partner in your healthcare, that's how we save people tons of money. I mean, there's a convenience benefit, there's savings on meds, but really where the rubber hits the road, when you cut your hand slicing an avocado on Thanksgiving, true story for a patient, it's always the holidays and always an avocado. Or you fall out of a tree hanging your Christmas lights, also true story.
Oh my gosh.
or you fall while skydiving, also a true story. I prefer for that person to go to the ER.
Oh, geez.
But I tell my patients, if you're upright and not actively bleeding, call me first. And if I can keep you out of the urgent care and keep you out of the ER, we're going to save you a ton of money. And so, and those are big win moments. Like I know how much savings, how much hassle. Last fall, we had a little girl crack her chin on the coffee table. And so this family pays $120 a year for basically almost 24/7 access for these purposes. So they called and I was finishing dinner with my family or whatever. And I said, hey, I'll meet you there in 45 minutes. And actually it was her forehead. It wasn't she wasn't the chin. And what was so funny, and when I feel like these are the big wins. What was so funny is drove down, met, she had calmed down. I'd got the clinic ready. I'd beat them there. So I'd put a little stuffed animal and some stickers, walked in, looked at it, cleaned it a tiny bit, glued it. It was less than 9 minutes before dad was in, and then they were back out. And the funny thing was, because it was so quick and so easy, dad was kind of like, is that all?
Is that it?
Is that it? And how much do we owe you? And I'm like, no, that's part of the membership fee, right? So I consider those things really big wins, which is just like, we can really demonstrate how much easier things can be than what kind of the model we have now. So
yeah, I guess I should say patient for life.
Yeah.
Right? I always get that mixed up. In business world, it's clients,
so
right?
what's funny, a lot of physicians will say these are not customers. And I had a surgeon teach me, he said, Dr. Gunther, this is not Burger King. It's not have it your way. And I do think that's important. Sometimes doctors should be experts that help guide with education so people can make the most informed decision. However, I think failing to look at patients as consumers of healthcare, failing to look at patients as people who have choices, failing to look at the delivery of healthcare as a business or micro business misses a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. And I think that you are very smart in seeking other entrepreneurial advice and how people do things, because then you can implement it into your own practice. So let's talk a little bit about the marketing side of what you're doing, because we're on a marketing journey. Yes. This is the marketing expedition. So as you go through and you think about, I mean, even pre-pandemic BC, before COVID, right? I know. You did some things like, and you also introduced some new services to your practice as well. Let's talk a little bit BC and then during COVID, kind of what's going on, and then what's like in the future now.
Right.
What are some things you did to help get the word out? How did you tell people about what you were doing?
Right.
There's a little bit of educational component to what you do too, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a dual education component, because intrinsic to explaining the business model, which we kind of talked about, a lot of people don't know what a family doctor actually is. Yeah. So this notion of this old-timey country doctor. So I have people who say like, so you can do my pap smear? Yes. But can you take care of my baby? Yes, actually. Can you remove this mole? Yes. And so, can you take care of my acne? Yes. Can you do my knee replacement? No. So it's
you're not a surgeon.
Yeah, it's one of the, but I do things with knives. You know what I mean? But not under anesthesia. So well, I numb things. I'm not like a torture person, but it's we have culturally lost the understanding of the full capacity of a well-trained generalist or family physician. And so there's much education to be done there. But so when I started in 2013, early 2014, my goal was me and a nurse and a small amount of patients, and I'm just that country doctor. I actually was diagnosed with breast cancer about 2 years into starting the business. And at the time when I started, in terms of marketing, really didn't have a marketing budget. So relied on my reputation in the community and my past patients. I had a few articles like Idaho Business Review, which was really great. A Statesman did a little bit of a piece, but I really just relied on sort of this word of mouth, underground groundswell, and relied on the fact that I knew that hospital systems weren't necessarily meeting a lot of patients' needs, unique needs, like home visits and things like that. Right. So that, in terms of marketing, that worked. And I worked a ton of side jobs. So there wasn't the economic stress of having to rely 100% on the growth of Spark when I started. After my breast cancer, I decided to pivot. And this is where in our business group, we did a lot of work. I added a nurse practitioner, physician assistant, because I felt fundamentally that the offerings of the healthcare model, longer visits, same day appointments, next day appointments, home visits, advocacy when you're in the hospital through either showing up or calling, wholesale medications, labs, imaging, after hours procedures to keep you out of the urgent care when or if they're needed. I just added that tally up. And I thought, with all of that, at $79 a month, I don't think it also has to only be Dr. Julie.
Right.
You know, can I bring on people who share my mission, who are really excited about the high quality of care and can help me with this model? And that has worked out very well.
Yeah.
I totally have ADD and I love procedures. I love art. I love creating things. And so 2 years ago as well, I decided to add aesthetics. So I do injectables, Botox filler. That's separate from the direct primary care model. And what's been fun about that, there are many overlaps in the business models, but also some big differentiators.
Right.
In terms of utilization, incentivization, cost discounting. So on the primary care side, on the regular medical care side, I don't want to be in a model where people only pay when they come in. That's where the model breaks down.
Yeah.
On the aesthetic side, it's different.
Right.
But so in terms of marketing, we really haven't fully figured out sort of the sweet spot in our marketing journey. And there's a number of reasons. One, I've created a lot of barriers. One of those barriers is being probably more sensitive to our budget than is beneficial to our growth, if that makes sense. But marketing, I think in every model always it can feel a little uncertain. And that's where, you know, you hire experts who can help with ROI, who have a track record like you guys, like Pepper Shock.
Yeah.
On the primary care side, talking to a ton of physicians around the country, the greatest growth has always been word of mouth. So the sort of word on the street is take the greatest care you can of the customers you have, and it'll take care of itself. And that has panned out.
And I tell people all the time, like, you have to go see, Dr. Gunther, go see Julie. I always have to really remember, Gunther, you got to put that in there. Go see Dr. Julie, and she doesn't take insurance. And immediately they're like,
how does that work?
What? What do you mean she doesn't take insurance? Like, no, you don't understand. Let me explain. It's a membership and you pay, and they're just like $79. That's all I have to pay. I'm like, yes, that's all you have to pay.
Right.
And you do it on a monthly. And, I think that people, it's definitely a model more people need to know about and more people could benefit from. And you, as you grow, you can, add another PA, you can add more people that will help you or partner up, so that you're not like spread so thin that you're, getting
well,
pulled.
And truthfully, our next, so you asked, so prior to COVID, the interesting thing about COVID was a couple things. Number one, if you look at Value Builder in business valuation, having recurrent revenue, a membership basis, is a high valuation, right?
Absolutely.
So that's not why I have a membership. The membership just fundamentally changes my ability to be available. It changes. I don't have to worry about like, we'll double book, triple book, it means I'm available to you and you're available to me, kind of like I know what the business will provide for me and I know what the business can provide for you. And it creates, I think, the opportunity, which we don't have in healthcare, which is just to really have clear expectations around what am I paying for? What can I get? What will I do? And you can literally say, okay, in a normal year, my entire out-of-pocket budget will be this much, But with COVID, originally, we had some fear, like all businesses, like, oh my gosh, how many people are going to cancel their benefit? But actually what's happened with COVID is a lot of people have had transitions in their own workplace, workforce. We're seeing more and more employers start to really try to become educated about more of their options in healthcare. So we had to slow the aesthetics business down a ton, which was scary, but I love having a dual business model for that reason, both because it's exciting to me and I enjoy the procedures, but also they support each other. Moving forward for our business, I would really love to see our business grow in offering direct primary care to larger employers, whether it's 10 to 30 to 50 to 100 employees. This model can save businesses at least 25% on their total healthcare spend. And there's a local doctor who's been demonstrating that in a pilot project, which is yet to be like fully disclosed, but it's data that's been substantiated by other direct primary care clinics, one of them being Q-Liant. So what has been a challenge to me a little bit is continuing to run my business like we're driving down the highway while trying to change the tire, while trying to get people's attention about how cool my car is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so moving forward, I have two goals for my business. One, I would really love for us to scale our aesthetics business. And I'm one of the few physician injectors in our community in the sense that a fair number of aesthetic spas or studios they have a physician licensee, but the physician is not the one guiding all the care or providing a lot of the services. And sometimes that doesn't matter, actually. It's not, some physicians aren't necessarily better injectors, but we're uniquely positioned there. And then I would love to see our primary care side grow by starting to help more and more businesses reduce their healthcare spend. And we take care of about 13 small businesses in the Valley right now. And we take care of Ballet, Idaho, which has been a real joy. And I brag about it because I'm proud of it. But those are sort of my two big business goals. In terms of marketing, there's infinite opportunity for me on social media. And I am just super irregular about it. But service-based industry with a membership is tricky to calculate a ROI.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I haven't found the secret sauce, and in talking to a lot of my colleagues, a lot of them haven't. But certainly, and working with you guys to redo we have a strong brand, and I used a marketing company to do that, and I encourage everybody to do that. I really think putting a lot of thought into your brand and your physical appearance and your brand identity beyond like something you design yourself on a Word document. I think it's really important.
I do too.
Yeah. And I think it's a very worthwhile investment, especially in the healthcare space. I see, frankly, a lot of my colleagues with kind of crappy brand logos.
Right.
It doesn't differentiate. So, this was before I knew you, and we worked with a company out of Kansas, and they did just an awesome job, and that stood up so far. And then when we worked with you guys to redo our website, I'm really grateful for that. And then to be completely transparent, tried to manage the website myself for a while, which means it's not being managed. So re-engaging with Pepper Shock to just make sure our physical presence to the external world reflects what I want it to reflect, which is just modern, high quality, factually based, organized, all of those things.
Well, and at some point I want to talk to you too about this new social media tool that we're doing. It's scheduling, it's automating, it's assigning, it's it's calendar view, so you can see everything that's scheduled, and it sends you reports for analytics if you've how much engagement, how many new fans, how many new story posting, and it does it all, right? And it's for agencies that we can then resell just the workspaces, if you will, and it's $40 a month to
awesome.
do all of that. So I'll have to share that a little bit more. We just started using it, but so far so good, and I love the weekly reports that we're getting that tells me oh, look, we've got more engagement, or and it's like pre-planned all the way. That you can put everything in there, and then of course, when you want to do something on the fly, you certainly can do that too. But it's certainly a helpful tool for people like you that need to kind of plan it out ahead of time, and then you kind of just set it and forget it. But then just check in and make comments as needed, rather than always having to come up with the content all the time. And there's suggested content,
based on
industry.
I think one of my physician colleagues has done something like this, and I've been really impressed because it is a huge part of our brand, and a huge thing that's really important to me is authenticity. And so I'm probably overly controlling, which then impairs actually doing anything. But I never, I never want something to not feel earnest or not feel authentic. And we have some internal changes happening too, which is exciting. I think if I were to give if I were to give advice to a listener or to myself 5 years ago, and I don't know if this is my journey or not, just my journey or not, but it's business grows in increments, and I know we hear stories about how like whammo, they went wild and now they're a huge influencer and they sold 3 million squatty potties or whatever overnight. But and I'm sure that does happen. But I think if you look at the literature, what really happens is people churn and work for a really long time. And there isn't any one thing that blows the top off your business. It's just the ability to keep showing up every day and keep moving forward and keep pivoting. And so any marketing plan, for me early on, marketing was just not any sort of option, or paying anyone to do any marketing. But I still firmly believe if you're the owner, or what's interesting to me, I guess I'll look at the other side of this, which is I run into physicians who want to start their own practice who are asking whether or not their business idea has value. So until you know what problem you're solving for your consumer, and until you can speak clearly about why that matters, I don't think you should spend money on marketing, because you are the marketing when you march around town and explain your value. And I mean, that goes without saying that if you don't firmly believe in what you're doing, it's probably not going to be really successful. So I think you are your best marketing in the beginning when you're micro, and then your clients and customers and their testimonies, your second best marketing, and then
accelerating word of mouth advertising, right?
Staying the course, and having a strong brand and just believing in it have had value for me too. But I'm aware, like, I'm feeling very hopeful, and it's not just the inauguration. Our business is kind of turned a little bit of a corner in a way that the financials aren't just week to week stressful, There's a tiny bit of wiggle room, which then opens up the opportunity of, okay, how do we use these funds how do I steward these funds in the best way to grow the business a little bit more? So that's kind of where we are.
ROI from your efforts, and and make sure that it's the right efforts and that you're, doing things that are going to be effective for your plan. But
aside, kind of unrelated, but very related to Spark, is I've always loved to teach, and it is the heart of probably what makes my relationship with patients and customers and staff most therapeutic. Is just, I find if you can understand yourself and communicate to others and they can have their own understanding, it's this nice synergy. So I've been doing a few videos with COVID to educate our patients in the community, but also sort of behind the scenes as I'm starting to teach aesthetics and do some mentoring of physicians who want to open their practices, which I've done not for money, but I'll be making a transition to do that as something, as more of a business. And so, within the marketing, I can envision marketing that's more of a, I guess building an individual brand around skill set and business and things like that. So there's sort of the 3-pronged approach, and it's the same thing that we talked about 3 years ago. I just feel like
teaching
at the time I was eager.
Yeah,
at the time I was eager and could see it, but I still hadn't quote unquote done my time. Does that make sense? And there's been a lot of learning
even podcasting.
Since then.
Right? You can do this.
There's been a lot of learning since then, right? And so it's funny. I did a Facebook Live 2 weeks ago about just the COVID vaccine.
I saw, and what it means to be, what the vaccine actually is.
Yeah, just because I think it's kind of cool. I mean, kind of geek out to just understand like how do people even figure this out? How does it work? And then it can inform all the news articles that people read. But the majority of feedback, and obviously this is going out to people who know me, so people are going to be nice. But the majority of feedback, and this is consistent with feedback I get in my professional life, is wow, you're really able to explain things in a way I can understand it. And so it's fun for me to understand something and then share that understanding. So I wouldn't have said I'm a passionate educator, but I kind of think I am. Yeah. Which is kind of weird.
Yeah, that's good because you have important things to educate people with, and if they can understand what's going on with them, and then they can take a more active approach in resolving whatever issues they're having, or, if they're having issues of, what is this vaccine going to do to me, and how is it going to work, and what is it, the scary part in your video, I watched the whole thing and it was great, and I shared it, and the part where you said that this is not necessarily a new thing, vaccines are not a new thing, we've understood this before, this is just a new addition to it, right? And that was like, okay, it's not like they're starting from scratch with this,
and I see a lot of things in the media, and I think sometimes the news media does purposely misinform or like tangentially inform, but I also think it's always been so fascinating to me that like healthcare writers aren't healthcare professionals. Like it just is so I'll read healthcare articles sometimes and this isn't for a healthcare provider, this isn't written for you, this is written for a normal person. I'm like, but it's still qualitatively incorrect. The way it was explained, it demonstrates a misunderstanding of the principle. And another thing I'm super passionate about is consent, and I don't see how you can give consent for anything, a vaccine, a procedure, a marriage. I don't see how you can give consent for anything if you don't have a pretty firm grasp on what's being asked of you. So that's where I generally find the majority of people make very good choices if they are afforded the opportunity to be properly informed. And again, I can't do that in 12 minutes. Right. On that podcast or that video on Facebook, I was like, this will be 3 to 5 minutes all about, and I got done and I was like, that's 35 minutes. Okay. I should never assume I can do anything in 3 to 5 minutes.
Don't commit to a time, right?
Yeah. I don't even get through the Starbucks line that fast. So come on now,
Okay, so future, you want to see SparkMD grow with employers. So if I know I'm obviously an employer and my staff are, subscribed, we're members. But if you had an opportunity to talk to other employers, what would you say to them?
So I would really like small and medium-sized businesses to understand that within the tax law and the healthcare law we already have in place, there are solutions in front of them where they can reduce their total healthcare spend by 25% or more, and the data shows, and have their employees be happier with their benefit, which feels very radical. The thing I found in talking to employers and in modeling out some of this, and it's not that hard, it's not that far away, is employers can't believe what I'm showing them. Right. And to believe how much you can save, you have to have an understanding of how much you're being charged. And healthcare as a business model has no transparency. So one example I like to use is a microscopic example. A CBC, which is a complete blood count, bills out after insurance to some people at about $48. At SparkMD, it costs $5. It actually costs us $3.50. We charge $1.50 because of the time the blood draw in the tube. But we really try to not mark things up. But so healthcare is a very unique industry that until recently, the vast majority of people had no option for negotiation or price transparency.
Right.
And we can
just get what you get. The bill comes in the mail, and sometimes you don't even know how many different bills you're going to get.
Yes. So if you want to solve problems for your employees, if the goal of providing benefits is really to solve problems, if the goal is, if you've got employees where, you've got a single mom who has a sick kid and she says, gosh, I can't get the kid until the doctor tomorrow or the next day, so I've got to miss work. It's getting a little bit late in the day, but if you call us today, we would get that kid in now or tomorrow. So there's a lot of little things. We've provided guidance during the pandemic to businesses. Yeah. So that's been an interesting additional benefit we didn't really forecast, but our businesses have reached out to us and said, hey, help us with how we handle this. If we should COVID test people, how do we do this? So healthcare doesn't have to be so difficult or so complicated or so obtuse or so expensive. And you can get so much more for your dollar. And in addition to doing all that, you're helping local small businesses transform healthcare. So my challenge has been to really catch the ear of small business owners and say, just come talk to me.
Right.
There's 2 insurance agents in the Valley who understand this model, who are fantastic. I'm sure there's more than just 2, but Frederickson Insurance and then Lindsay, and Lindsay Clark Youngsworth and the Chandra Group. They both groups have been passionate supporters of innovative thinking, and I think they earnestly want to drive solutions for small businesses, and they can help create products where your employees have the benefit of something covering them if they have a catastrophe.
Right. And that's what we do. We have catastrophic, but then use SparkMD for the monthly, and it works nicely. Right.
While having no stress with the out-of-pocket costs. So I was actually at my dentist yesterday, and I have to harass him because I'm getting more bold. And I was like, I'm going to call you because the hygienist shared with me. She said, we have a nice health plan, but our deductible is so high, our out-of-pocket is high, so none of us go to the doctor because we're afraid of what our out-of-pocket will be. Right. And that is perfect for what I do, because you can look at your employees and say, you have no out-of-pocket cost unless you go to the ER.
Right.
And when you go to the ER, you're going to have an out-of-pocket cost anyway. So let's create a deductible that, maybe it's $5,000 or $7,000, which stinks. But if it's only utilized for an emergency, it just radically transforms people's sense of security. And it's just a better business model. Yeah. And
and when you're hiring employees and they want to know if they get benefits, right? I mean, you tell them, yes, you get benefits, right? I mean, we have insurance, but we also have this extra added benefit that's to you that is more cost effective and it's better, and it's
to the extent, I'm not a concierge doctor, and that has some negative connotations because people assume concierge doctors only take care of the rich, but it literally is. We have a concierge physician arrangement for all of our employees with a high deductible health plan in case of emergencies. Right. And that to me is like pretty kick-ass answer to the what am I going to do about my health care? And then if people leave, they have the option to stay on. They just assume the cost of their own membership. Most of our employers pay the membership, and then the employees pay for their meds, labs, and imaging. And most of our employers, we have one employer that pays for beneficiaries, the rest don't. But again, children are $10 a month.
Yeah.
So, and if there's people with really pretty extreme healthcare needs and more unique needs, generally the data shows they save money too. But a tension point sometimes is, well, what if my employees want their specific doctor? And that's just something we have to have a conversation about. There's options in the Valley. There's about 4 or 5 of us that have clinics that are working together to create more options for people. But I find that people tend to release their relationship with their regular doctor when they see another clinic or another doctor is gonna take up that mantle and provide high quality care also. But so anyway, it's just like healthcare doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to be a source of incredible business stress. Like, you can drive down your spend and I think end up with a better delivery, better benefit for your employees. So I wish I could get in everyone's ear to help them try out this model because it's pretty awesome.
It is pretty awesome. And you've shared this model with others all across the country. I mean, they look to you to get advice, and other people before they started theirs, like yours, you've done this before, right? I mean,
there's around the country, a number of my colleagues, Shane Purcell I think he's in North Carolina. I should know, South Carolina, works with actually unions and some of the major utility companies. There's larger iterations of this that work with academic institutions, universities. Yeah. So there's all kinds of versions of this, but and even some healthcare systems, hospital systems are trying to launch their own sort of membership-based direct primary care clinics or direct care clinics. We're starting to see more specialists go into direct care. So I actually am excited for healthcare. I think we're going to start to see more and more innovation where we use technology to drive down cost. And then I, personal plug, I wrote a little book during COVID time. Actually, I started it before my breast cancer diagnosis, and I finished it this spring. It's called Start Fires, and it's a guide for dreamers who are also doctors. And it's just literally a brain dump about how I started this business, and the target audience is physicians who want to go out on their own. I've been challenged to turn it into a how to start your small business book, so maybe you and I will talk about that.
Yeah. Congratulations. I knew that was a work in progress. So
it's done and it's published and it's completely imperfect. And I've made like $800 on it this year. But I've gotten a lot of feedback that it's just a very conversationalist. Here's why I started, how I started, and here's the steps I took and what I learned from it.
How do people get it? How can they buy it?
Amazon.
Amazon.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep. If you want to support me, you can. Just say nice things. No, I honestly published it because I was asked so many times to edit checklists about how to start your own practice, and I kept saying I've written this, and I had done a very large seminar with the American Academy of Family Physicians for physicians about how to start your practice, and that's largely what this document was. So I was just like, I'll just see if I can self-publish. So that was a learning curve too.
Yeah.
And I've got another book that I'm working on. I've got two more that I'm working on actually. One's a bunch of patient stories, and that's actually been, I started that in 2001.
Okay.
So it's actually almost 20 years of patient stories. And then there's the Start Fires 2.0, which is just all the learnings from like year 3 to year 7. But yeah, we'll see if we'll see what happens with that. And then I'm working on some documentation for teaching aesthetics. So we'll see if any of that turns into anything. I don't know. Yeah. But I don't think any of us should have to learn the same thing twice, but I think sometimes I'm vested in saying, hey, like, don't screw up the way I screwed up, because, but yeah, I am a national expert in this model of care and in this space. And, right now I have tenure as president of a national organization of physicians that do direct primary care. So in terms of, that makes me sound really, really busy, and somehow it kind of all works, probably because of my team, but it's been, for people excited about business or stuck in their own entrepreneurship or wondering where to go, I think just, let your passion fly. And particularly if what you have to offer helps other people grow, because it just opens a lot of doors, and good things generally come, even though it can be frustrating and exhausting.
Well, Julie, thank you very much for sharing your story with us and being a little vulnerable and telling us the things that you're working on and just sharing. And it's great because you are so authentic and just so real. And if you don't hear it enough, I am super proud of what you've accomplished and where you've come. And I know, we've gone through processing and mind mapping and mind, what's it called? All the things that we did in our
so
group
many
together.
SMART goals still need to be finished.
I know. I think that's an ongoing thing, right?
Yeah.
But congratulations on getting your book done.
Thank you.
Definitely an accomplishment, an achievement to be proud of. So
it's kind of cool.
Yeah, hopefully people will go support. So say it again. It's Spark.
It's called Start Fires, and it's on Amazon. It's a guide for dreamers who are also doctors. And frankly, I haven't figured out how to reformat it for Kindle, so it is not available on Kindle.
Okay.
And that's only because I sit down to try and format it for Kindle and I can't figure it out. But no, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And your mentorship and friendship and just your incredible ethos and hard work has been really inspiring to me. And I miss our monthly meetings, but
I know.
I'm glad to be here.
I miss our group, but we'll have to do this. I know. I was super excited to hear you were going to come and take a moment out of your day, your busy day, to come share with us. So this will be out. We launch every Thursday, so it'll come out, and on the Marketing Expedition podcast is where you'll see it. So thank you, Julie. Yeah. And for our listeners, until next time, we appreciate you. Don't forget to go do a review and enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Find more online at peppershock.com. Wouldn't it be great if there was one place you can go to get all the latest information and tips about marketing and advertising? The Marketing Expedition community is that place. People like you gather in our online community to build relationships with others and find the latest marketing trends, tactics, tools, and technology. We help you build your brand and your bottom line. Start your adventure today. Visit themarketingexpedition.com to find out more.